Okay, so hey, today we are super excited to introduce to you one of my lifelong friends. He is a leader amongst leaders. He teaches success. He is a chiropractor, but he's so much more beyond that. He's a man full of wisdom. I personally first met him, we just talked about it, in the late 80s. Dr. Fred and I both went to something called Dynamic Essentials. He was one of the team speakers. And he thoroughly inspired me to become a greater chiropractor. And not only that, I got involved in politics, and he was the president of our association, which I got to serve him as a representative assembly membership. And so I'm just super excited to introduce our audience to Dr. Bob Hoffman. And Dr. Bob, welcome to our podcast. This is Resurrecting Our Freedom. And my co-host over there, that handsome young man, Dr. Fred DiDomenico.
Thank you very much. And Bob, you're also a major influence with me. And you've been a great leader for decades, not just in chiropractic, but, you know, more importantly, as a spiritual being here to fulfill a soul purpose and making a difference, bringing a message into humanity that I think the general public now is finally learning and thirsting for. And so this is, after all the decades that we've been chiropractors, and you're probably a couple of years ahead of Doug and I, we kind of got in at the same time. You know, this is the time for us to step up as a profession, as everyone is seeking an inside-out form of healthcare.
Well, both gentlemen, thank you so much for that introduction and your friendship and the invitation onto today's conversation. I'm honored, to be honest, with both of you. I've been a chiropractor for 43 years, and I loved every freaking second of it. And I believe the best is yet to come, and there's never been a better time to be a chiropractor. And I'll be happy to dig into my reasons why, and why I think our profession's about ready to explode in a very positive and profound way. And I could clearly state without any doubt that in my 43 years, I have seen a tremendous shift in our profession. Not always in good ways, mostly in very good and profound and positive ways. But man, the profession has changed. The public perception of chiropractic has changed. The attitude and energy of chiropractors as a general profession has changed. And I'm so very proud of that. Yes, I'm a child of the 60s. I graduated from chiropractic school in 1978. And I've always been an activist in my entire career, my entire life. And I'm really one of those really, really blessed souls that I never chose any of this. I was chosen. I never even applied to chiropractic school. A chiropractor applied for me and told me about it. Honest to God truth. People say to me, you know, how many schools did you apply to? 0. My chiropractor applied for me, wrote out the letter of recommendation, and gave me the paper and said, just sign here. And I did. And I was a kid. I was 20 years old. I was so naive. I mean, literally, I couldn't find my ass with both hands. And I was applying to school, and I didn't even know what chiropractic was. And Doug, you talked about our political affiliation. I got elected as the representative assemblyman for the state of New York in 1981. I was involved up until 2000. I became president of the ICA in 99. And yes, we served together, and my respect for you is through the roof for all of that and for so much more. But I didn't even send in my intent to run for representative assemblyman. My mentor in New York, who was the Northeast Regional Director, Dr. Bill Remling, he actually sent in my intent to run and then informed me about it. And I remember as a young kid being so nervous, what does the representative assemblyman do? He goes, don't worry about it. I said, well, I have to campaign. He goes, no, you don't, just vote for yourself. And I did, and I could date myself just a little bit. I got a telegram congratulating me on winning the election in the state of New York. So my very first representative assembly meeting, I had no idea what to expect. Again, I was this young kid. There were 2 older gentlemen, one on my right, one on my left. I sat down, I was shaking like a leaf. And at the very first break, I turned to this gentleman to my right, and nervously I introduced myself, and he says to me, Fred Bodge, Wisconsin. And I was so naive that I actually said to him, when I was in chiropractic school, I studied a book by a Dr. Barge on torticollis. Any relationship? He goes, that is I, young man. And I was more impressed with the fact that I'm meeting an author than sitting next to an icon. And that was my introduction. And I have really been blessed with many, many mentors who have guided me. And if I have a claim to fame, I've gone down this river of life and I haven't fallen out of the boat because
Yes,
I
that's
didn't
fascinating.
initiate any of that stuff. I didn't find my practice. A classmate found my practice. We were going to go into partnership, and then he couldn't get his license in the state of New York. So I was stuck with the practice, but I took off like a rocket and I was successful the very first month. And I have no issue with all the wonderful things. I never decided to get into management and to coaching and mentoring, um, but I
Hey, can I
started doing
interrupt
that
you
in
for
my
a sec?
practice.
Can I
What was
interrupt
that?
you for a sec?
Yeah.
You know, and for the general public, what's the real message here? You know, chiropractic, you know, the brain and spinal cord send energy to the organs. So chiropractic is a healthcare system. When your spine is out of alignment and we correct the spine and we adjust the spine, we send energy to the organs and diseases heal. So when you're looking at a guy that found the principle, found the purpose, and had a heart for purpose, what you're seeing is when you have it's like David, right? He was a shepherd. He got down his skills as a shepherd using a sling, and then his moment comes when he gets to kill Goliath, and then he becomes the greatest king. Well, you know, God looks at the most faithful. So what I'm hearing you say is you were so faithful that your next step was always put in your lap, and your
Mhm.
purpose was given to you, whether you wanted it or not. You didn't have a chance to say no, you know, because it's almost like Moses in front of the burning bush where he's like, God, can you send someone else? You know, I'm slight of speech. He's like, I don't even want this. But God's like, no, 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 you're going, take this step. And it's almost like the same thing happened to you. When you are on purpose, business becomes automatic. And then you
Life
just have to
becomes
develop
automatic.
life. Yeah, life becomes automatic. Exactly. And that's what living from your heart is. So that's my interpretation of what
Well,
I'm
it's
hearing.
a beautiful and correct interpretation, Fred. I agree with you 100%. And connecting some of these dots is, I have to admit that growing up, I never even thought about the word purpose, had no idea what my purpose was. And it was when I went to DE for the very first time, which was in January 1976. And I heard Dr. Sid Williams get up on stage and talk about this thing called lasting purpose, to give, to love, and to serve out of our abundance. That was a magical moment in my life. I remember it as if it was last week. It completely changed my thinking, my consciousness, and it set my life on it to a different trajectory than it had been up until that moment. And I've come from that place ever since.
Well, Bob, I
Yeah.
just have to say that I started going to I believe, in the early 90s. And you were one of the most influential speakers for me personally on my intentionality in terms of what I didn't really know what it was that chiropractic did. And I mean, I knew it still the what it was, to put it in pragmatic, practical terms that allowed me to go back to my office on Monday and carry with me the whole dynamic essential, that lasting purpose. I carried that into my practice with me, and literally my practice blew up that first week I came back from DE. It was amazing. So I really I don't know if I ever publicly thanked you for that, but I appreciate you very much for that.
That's very kind of you, and I greatly appreciate that. And you know, we all have influenced so many people, and it's just an honor to influence the influencers.
Yeah, I would have to say too, you know, we were the one that drugged Billy DeMoss to DE, and I attribute the growing purpose that is bigger than it's ever been. I've been in practice 33, well, not in practice, but being a chiropractor 33 years. But I attribute everything to those old school philosophy days. And we just get more chiropractors and the general public understanding what the truth is, then we won't have to worry about a vaccination or about a COVID or about a Delta strain or about a flu season or about a lockdown or about a mask. We would create our own freedom from the inside out, and that's why we're on here today.
Yeah.
Now, Bob, can you tell us what, first of all, you coach chiropractors, as does Dr. Fred, and you have a huge organization. I don't know how many chiropractors you have under you or that you're serving at the present moment, but you probably don't know this, but I did have the opportunity to speak at one of the inner mentoring program you had at one time back at Parker Seminar. Anyway, so tell us, what are you telling your chiropractors to tell their patients how to live a life that's free of the fear that's generated by the mainstream media right now?
Well, it's a great question, and I have two very different answers for that I think are important and practical. First, part of our philosophy tells us to live from inside out, not from outside in. To follow your heart, your intuition, your innate intelligence. And I think that is, as Fred said, part of our old-time philosophy, part of our history and our heritage that I think we should never lose sight of. Going back to my story, I just lived my heart. I lived my heart. My innate wisdom drove me and directed me, and I just never really questioned it. However, during times of crisis, gentlemen, we have to have empathy for people who aren't as secure or confident or knowledgeable as we are. And I don't believe that there is one answer for everybody. There are circumstances and individuals that, quite frankly, they may take a different decision than we take, and I have no issue with that. I don't judge people's decision. I just don't want to be judged on my decision. I don't think one size fits all here. There are elderly people who need some help. There are people who have to watch grandchildren or great-grandchildren who need some help. But it isn't necessarily something that I believe has to be the case for 100% of us. So to me, it's almost analogous to a woman getting pregnant. It's her body, she gets to decide. And it's our life, and we get to decide. Some of us know we're healthy. Some of us work really, really hard at staying healthy. And some people are just not very healthy at all. So again, I just don't think that there's one answer that serves everybody.
Well, I would agree, and that's also what science says, right? I mean, that's science and not opinion, where obviously they're ignoring the science and they're making a general statement, and a whole lot of people are dying and suffering from that. And we don't even really know. The general public doesn't even really know, because it's certainly not on TV, and we know.
So, Fred, the only thing I'd like to add to what you're saying and what Bob said is there is one thing that everybody would benefit from, and that is everybody who has a breath would benefit from allowing their nerve system to be cleared of subluxation. So I don't care if you're a brand newborn baby or you're somebody that's 119 years of age, you will do better on this planet as an unsubluxated individual. And so while not every drug works for everybody, in fact, we're trying to shove one medication to 100% of the population. I just had a meeting with a major nutritional company that talked about polyethylene glycol, also known as PEG, how that's creating all kinds of anaphylactic and possibly autoimmune reactions. Because you can't give that to everybody, because certain people have different antigen to antibody responses. But the great thing about what we do is nobody's allergic to the chiropractic adjustment. Everybody benefits from reconnecting the spiritual with the physical.
There's no doubt about it at all. And I'll just tell you, my experience is the majority of people have lost faith in the government. They've lost faith in the World Health Organization, the National Institute of Health, the Centers for Disease Control. And I think millions and millions of people around the world have come to the important conclusion that they have to take better care, better responsibility for theirs and their family's health. But the rub in the road is that they're not exactly sure who to turn to for guidance, who to trust, who to believe, and they're not really sure what things they can or should do to improve their health. And I believe that there are 5 critical musts. Number 1 is we must start eating healthier, cleaner, and taking supplementation is no longer optional. It's just not. Number 2, we must start moving more. We've become way too sedentary. We need to exercise, move, improve cardiovascular function. Number 3, we must get more restorative sleep. We must. Restorative sleep is either rapid eye movement or delta brainwave sleep, a minimum of 2.5 hours an evening combined between those two. The old question is 6 hours better than 7 or is 8 better than 7 is not an accurate question. It's a bad question. It's how many cumulative hours of rapid eye movement and deep delta sleep do you get? Minimum is 2.5. 3.5 is better. 4.5 is better yet. Number 4, we must lower our stress load. Now, trying to get rid of stress is stress. So be gentle about it. Could you reduce your physical stress load by 10%, your chemical stress load by 10%, your emotional stress load by 10%, your electromagnetic stress load by 10%? It will change your life. And number 5, which is the most important because it connects to all the other 4, is we must improve brain function. To me, there's one purpose, one goal, one mission, one objective to chiropractic, and one is a word that tells me what chiropractic is all about: optimal neurological expression. We must improve neurological expression, and that begins with our brain. Now, we know, because we're all chiropractors, that chiropractic adjustments normalize and maximize brain function. There's research documenting that. So the fact is, we need to be under regular chiropractic care. But the truth is, stress is so high today and people are so sick today. I've never seen people sicker, that getting adjusted is essential. But for some people, it's not even enough. You got to get adjusted and eat healthier and lower your stress load and exercise more and get more restorative sleep. And then the magic happens, because the power that made the body still will heal the body, provided that power is turned on. And we get to live our life from inside out, inner directed, not outer influenced. And we get to have that innate wisdom, that greatness that we have inside of us, to be expressed at greater and greater and greater levels. And that's when life becomes magical. And that's when everything you touch turns to gold, and every decision you make is the right decision, and you're in the right place at the right time, and life just is attracted to you.
Hey, let's comment on that, because A, that's brilliant. B, those were very general, and I would say most people understand what you just said. But if we can combine and put what's a couple things in each step. So the first one is nutrition. Why is supplementation necessary? Well, the soil isn't the same. You got to stay away from GMO products, genetically modified products, which they don't have to label in this country. If you're not eating organic, probabilities you're eating genetically modified, and genetically modified products cause cancer. And so that's a problem. And so, yes, it costs a little bit more, but you do need supplementation because food doesn't have the nutrients that it used to have 100 years ago because of the soil. And so that's just what you are, what you eat. You know, everybody's heard of that. And that's the materials that your body makes new cells with. You know, and you can add to that. I mean, secondly, when you say you have to move, you know, the thing is, and this ties into the 5th one, chiropractic, because you have receptors in all the joints of your spine that when you move, it actually heals your nervous system and heals your brain. Spine function, like what you just said on the 5th one, is directly related to brain function. You lose your brain, you lose your life. That's it. And Alzheimer's is going through the roof. And another thing for supplementation is we have such a toxic environment. I mean, I live in California. It's got one of the highest contents of lead in the country, and lead and heavy metals and metals in your brain will give you Alzheimer's. So everybody in today's world needs to be on a supplement. I have a supplement I put in my water every day that pulls metals out of your body. So that's essential. But you have to move your body, because that's what regenerates your nervous system and your brain. Third, I think, was stress. To me, the most powerful thing for stress is evolving spiritually. The higher your consciousness is spiritually, the more your internal peace, the more your internal joy, the more you see with insight, not with eyesight, the less you react to the conditions outside of you, the more you're grounded inside of you, and you're on your soul purpose. So to me, that's probably one of the most powerful tools for reducing stress. And if you want a vehicle, go to You Are More Powerful, spell it out, youaremorepowerful.com. I have a whole spiritually based system that can help you do that. What was number 4?
Restorative sleep.
Oh man, restorative sleep. I know me personally, I take some CBD products right before I go to bed, and man, that stuff knocks you out. I mean, I travel with those now. They help systemic inflammation. I mean, the benefits of CBD products are just amazing. And man, that will help you sleep like a rock. I know I can sleep less with, like what you said, it doesn't matter the time, it matters the quantity of deep sleep, of delta brainwave. And those are slow brainwave sleep. Also, delta brainwaves, when you sleep and your brain is operating in slower brainwaves, you are connecting to innate. You are connecting to God in the universe. So not only you're healing, you are enhancing your spiritual awareness. And so that deep sleep, man, is who we are, spirit, mind, body. And then chiropractic is obvious. A well-aligned spine is a powerful nervous system, which means it's going to keep you moving. It's going to keep you healthy. There's a whole medical study called neuroimmunology. You're not going to hear about it on CNN, where the nervous system is so related. This is right out of the Lancet. And I have a book called Back to Health that talks about the relationship between the nervous system and a powerful immune system. So if you're looking for action steps, because you all know what he said, but there's very specific action steps, and you can rewind this. If you just one thing in each area, you will have a new life.
No doubt. And Fred,
I would just add to that there was a book written several thousand years ago that says, as a man thinketh, so is he. So it's time that we take captive every thought in our brain. And just one biohack that you didn't mention that I am totally addicted to, and that is a grounding sheet. I don't know, Bob, if you have one of those, but the studies show that increases your heart rate variability, helps you get into a deeper sleep. And I recommend for everybody who doesn't do grounding on a regular basis to sleep on a grounding sheet. But those are great points, Bob. Thank you for, and Fred, as always, you always bring wisdom into the conversation all the time.
very good.
That's why I have him as my
I
partner.
get it from you.
But by the way, Clint Ober, who's the father of grounding and earthing, is a very dear friend. And yes, I have all of the products and I use them. I've always seen the DC, the Doctor of Chiropractic, as the CWO, the Chief Wellness Officer.
Love that.
You know, I think everybody needs an MD for diseases once they get sick or for emergencies, but everybody needs a chiropractor, a chief wellness officer to stay healthy, to stay vibrant, to age gracefully instead of growing old. And I hope all your listeners, if they're not under regular, consistent chiropractic care, will start doing that immediately.
That's awesome.
Cool,
So Bob,
man.
tell us what you're doing now. Bring us to your present day.
Well, for the last little over 20 years, I run the Master Circle Global, which is a premier chiropractic mentoring coaching program. We try our best to influence the thinking and behavior of our colleagues, to raise their standards and raise the consciousness of the profession. I'm very proud of the fact that my members are just crushing it all over the world, regardless of their personality, their school, their technique, their values. They're all crushing it. 80% of my members had their best year ever last year in spite of COVID lockdown, which is just awesome. And I love every minute of it. I'm living in Florida, And I lived my entire life in New York until last summer. And I'm enjoying the weather and less stressful lifestyle. And I'm traveling a little bit less. For 30 years, I traveled 30 times a year, all over the world, speaking for and to chiropractors and other wellness professionals. I'm still traveling, just less. I work half a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday morning, and I play. I'm in camp the rest of the week, where I'm outdoors and having fun and exercising and being with friends and family. And life is just about as close to perfect as you can get.
Awesome.
Well deserved, by the way, Bob, I have to say.
Yeah, you've put in your time and certainly a lot of life force energy. So what would you like to leave people with, Bob?
Well, what I'd like to leave people with is that the concept of what's possible. You know, so many of us have gotten so used to mediocrity. We've lowered our standards and raised our tolerations that I think it's just really time to take back control, to raise your standards and lower your tolerations and think about what's possible. Because if you could think about what's possible, it's accomplishable. And you might need some guidance from somebody, you might need some accountability from somebody, but go after it like your hair's on fire. Because every one of the people listening or watching to this podcast, they can accomplish just about anything they set their mind and their heart to. Get your mind and your heart in alignment, get your spine and your nervous system in alignment, get your brain back into a state of balance and harmony, raise your energy level, raise your certainty, raise your focus and your passion and your compassion, and you can accomplish anything you want. I'm living proof of that. I'm not smarter than anyone. I'm not better than anyone. God didn't put something in me that he left out of you, but I've worked hard. I've stayed focused. I've followed my heart and my innate wisdom, and I've accomplished so much and have influenced so many. And I really do believe that my best is in front of me, not behind me.
Nice.
That's
How
awesome.
about you, Dr. Fred? That was beautiful.
You know, I would say, well, there's a million things going through my mind, but this country started as a republic. The Constitution was to protect people against the government. I think it's pretty widespread and commonly known now the government is not out for our best interests. And if you think they are, then you're following the news and you're not really paying attention. You're not really paying attention to all the contradictions. Truth has no contradiction. There is no contradiction in truth. So because we are seeing so much contradiction, then you realize that we're not being told the truth, that if we're going to maintain our health and our freedom and protect our family, that we need to take a stand, like what Bob, you said. And I believe that every person is a spiritual being here having a human experience. And you intentionally, before you came into this body, through your mom and dad, into this life, that you chose to be here in this time of history, in time when things that are contradictory and some people may call evil, the curtain is being pulled back. This is a time that we can say, for those people that are raised Catholic like me, that said our Lord's Prayer every Sunday, and including on confession, when I say like 18 Our Fathers, you know, then you say, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And this is the time to bring heaven to earth. And I believe this is our responsibility. So let's take a stand, live from the inside out. This isn't a time to be worried about whether or not you hurt other people's feelings, but being able to stand for what you believe in. And I believe this is our time to create heaven on earth.
That's well said. I'm just going to say this. I believe, as per what Bob said, that you get what you tolerate. And if humanity can raise that bar, then we will have a higher expression of God within. And if we can have a greater expression of God within, we're going to have a freer people. And a freer people is always a better humanity. And we do that through chiropractic. We do that by setting people free of disease and sickness. And Bob mentioned a bunch of ways that we can set people free from fear. So if we can do that, we will have a better humanity, a more loving, caring humanity. And I think that's what we will all want for our families and our grandkids to grow up into.
Beautiful.
Cool. Hey, thank you so much for taking the time with us, Bob. We're really looking forward to connecting with you again. Thank you for all you do and your great leadership. and all the helping all the chiropractors to take a stand.
Well, it's my pleasure. I appreciate what both of you gentlemen are doing. We all have to stand up and speak our truth with love and kindness and try our best to make a difference and know that our lives matter. And I know that's true for the three of us, and I certainly hope it's true for all of your listeners and followers.
Cool, right on.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks
I
for
love
being
and
with us,
appreciate
my
you.
friend.
Love and appreciate you guys too. Have an
Yep.
awesome day.